Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Chris Legaspi, and today we are going to continue the Skills That Pay the Bills series. This episode will be about uh, clothing, wrinkles, folds, fabric, how to draw and invent them. And I'm not going to go too much into the mechanics of you know how to draw the wrinkles and folds. I'm just going to share some exercises and demonstrate the exercises that I do to improve my clothing and wrinkles and the ones that I assign to my students. And a lot of the some of the clothing and the poses, the choices that we're going to cover here that we're going to use for reference and things directly relate to movie poster work. That's the kind of work that I do, and I also teach a movie poster artist program, and we cover clothing and wrinkles in one of the modules there. So this will be another great way to, for those who want to, or interested in illustration work, or maybe you're already a professional and you want to, always wanted to improve your fabric. So this would be a great video for you.
And before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my free Insiders Club. Insiders Club members get first access to these weekly live streams, and you also get access to other live events, and you get discounts on courses and programs, along with access to free lessons and other free content available only to subscribers. So all you have to do is go to www.drawwithchris.com, and there you can enter your email and you'll be good to go.
And we're going to begin first by a warm-up exercise. And just to get us warmed up, we're going to do some copies of some diagrams, some fabric instructional diagrams, and then we're going to do some master copies, focusing on various costumes. And we're going to go through a couple of masters, Leyendecker and Loomis. Then we're going to do specifically shirt and jacket, so upper body clothing. And in movie posters, a lot of the poster comps that I have to draw for the clients are they're mostly heads, but the figures that are involved, a lot of them can be upper body, torso shots, anything above the waist or above the knee even. So we're going to do some studies from those, and then we're going to do some full figure, and I'll try to go through as many poses as possible in this video. So thank you for being here. So before we begin, comment below. Let me know, where are you calling from? Where are you located? What time is it for you? I am currently in Asia. I'm in Thailand right now at the moment, and it is 8 in the evening for me. So thank you for joining me wherever you are. We're going to begin by copying some diagrams from it's a very interesting set of diagrams. It sort of comes from this instructional book called The Famous Artist Course. It was this course you can take by mail. And a lot of successful and famous illustrators, American illustrators at the time, were also involved in this, and helped set it up and help judge it. But one of the chapters in it is drapery, wrinkles, clothing. And it's just some beautiful, beautiful diagrams. You can learn a lot from them. So this is one of the pages here, and I'm just going to go through and literally copy the diagram. One thing I like about these diagrams in doing master copies in general is they can be a little bit less stressful and more freeing than if you're trying to draw on your own. Because when you try to draw on your own, there's often feel pressure, especially if if you're an artist and you want to, you want to have a nice drawing. So there's a lot of pressure to do a nice drawing, and especially if you're maybe have a little less experience, that can be very difficult, obviously, and especially if you're doing realism. So when you do these little master copies, or in this case, we're copying some instructional diagrams. It's very freeing, very I don't want to say relaxing, but there's really no pressure because you don't have to do it perfectly. So here it's just 100% focused on learning, and that's great. It's exactly what we want. I'm trying to copy this. The first diagram is called a pipe fold. I know it's a little small on the screen there. I'm looking at the diagram on the upper left. It's called a pipe fold because it looks like a little pipe. And it typically occurs when something is being hung. So there's a anchor point. Fabric is hanging. It's kind of like a curtain. Curtains make little pipe-shaped folds. So this is a great way to start to recognize types of wrinkles. So moving on to the upper right, we have what's called the diaper fold. It's basically where you have two anchor points. And, just do my best to copy the diagram there. It's very clear and well drawn and easy to understand diagrams. That's why I really love this book. I always encourage my students to do this exact exercise. Just sit down and copy. That's what I did. To be full disclosure, I've been working as a professional artist now for a long time, but I really didn't appreciate fabric until recently, to be honest. I've always of course, I've had to draw fabric and characters and things and costumes and things like that when I was working in games. Even when I started my movie poster work, I obviously had to do a lot of realistic fabric, but I didn't appreciate it that much really until recently. I sat down and I discovered these set of diagrams, and I started to study them, and it really captured my imagination. So now I appreciate fabric and really enjoy drawing clothed models now. Okay, so looking at this diagram here, this left column, second from the top, it's called the zigzag fold. So I'm just trying to copy what I see. I know it's a little small on the screen. Hopefully you guys can see okay. And zigzag fold is, I'm trying to read the description. One fold is fitted into the next. The folds are usually contrasting in direction, are repetitive and interlock. Okay, that's interesting. They interlock, meaning they kind of lock in each other. They contrast in direction, so one going left to the top, one going right towards the bottom. They repetitive, so the shapes can look the same throughout the fabric, and you see this a lot, this kind of zigzag fold a lot when like say a shirt sleeve or a pant sleeve is kind of baggy, but there's a lot of fabric and it's kind of hanging down. So when someone's wearing a baggy shirt or a baggy jacket with a lot of fabric, you can see a lot of zigzag folds at the wrist, where the fabric kind of ends at the wrist, and also at the ankle, where the fabric ends at the ankle. So that's nice. Zigzag fold. I did a diaper fold here while I was talking. We try to do a half lock here. So I'm going to read the diagram first. Half lock fold. This fold is caused by a sharp change in direction. The emphasis is on the point where the direction changes and the slack across the meat. I can't read that. It's too small. Anyway, you can find these diagrams on Pinterest. I think that's where I found them. So it's kind of like the diaper, but it has two hanging points. right? Like the diaper fold right above it. But this one, there's sort of this twist that's happening. So you kind of take a diaper fold. This is the way I'm interpreting it. Take a diaper fold and then half lock it. Let it drop in the middle and then kind of bring it up and then overlap the other one. So the emphasis is on where the point where they change. So there's a direction change. That's what's happening here. A sharp, dramatic direction change, and that would be right here. So we emphasize that, emphasize the point, and then there's again another one here at the other upper anchor point on the right. That's why I love this diagram. It kind of gives you the information, the text, the writing is also very, very informative. Gives you a nice philosophy on drawing fabric. Okay, I'm gonna do one more. One more is really important. It's called the spiral fold. That's on the lower left. And there's two more here, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna move forward here. Just a nice little warm up. So spiral fold, and this says here, spiral, the fold is usually tubular in structure, but has a feeling of continuity in an ascending or descending manner. So it's tubular, so it's obviously going to be sleeves, right? Sleeves, pant legs. You see a lot of these. So they kind of wrap around. They look like little tubes, like a little spring. That's a nice little diagram there. And then they kind of follow a continuity, meaning they kind of go in the same direction. Seeming continuity, either spiraling upwards or spiraling downwards. So this is a great one to practice, great one to copy. As you can see, I didn't do such a good job copying my notes. Okay. Can't always erase. And this is my airbrush. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly tone this one because it doesn't make much sense until you see the tone really. See, so now you can see the cylindrical nature of the form. That's good. And the tone is in the diagram, so I would also copy the tone. I didn't do it here because I'm, again, for the sake of time, but if you're following along at home, definitely copy. Also, shade your study. That way you get, you can fully see where the fold goes in and out, where the fold starts to become cylindrical, like a pipe fold, or where a fold starts to get maybe more flat, like in this half lock fold right there. Zigzag, half lock, really nice, valuable diagrams here. So definitely check it out. And there's a bunch of pages, so I would copy if you're really serious about improving your fabric, and definitely if you're one of my students, I would definitely want you to copy multiple pages. There's so many pages, they're all valuable. They go specifically into like the shirt sleeves, the pant legs, things like the crotch and the armpit, the different folds happen there. So really wonderful, wonderful resource. Okay, exercise number 2 is the master copy. And of course, we got to start with the Lion-Decker, Mr. Lion-Decker. In my opinion, one of the greatest designers of fabric. And the key word is design, which is why I love to study his work. And I always encourage my students to study his work, especially if you're more leaning towards illustration and things like that. And this can be tough. It can be a little bit harder, more challenging than than the previous exercise. So we're going one step in difficulty here. And starting with the men's suit. Right now, I'm looking at shapes. And if you want to know more about how I analyze shapes and how I look at fabric and clothing, I have a separate video for that called How to See Shapes. I have a whole playlist here. It's all for free on my YouTube channel. So you can check that out. And that's all I'm doing now is, and then I'm trying to get, the outer shape, secondary shapes, the pieces, the various pieces of the lapel, the collar, the lower part, I forgot what it's called. And men's jacket is really important. I draw that quite a bit, quite a bit, as you can imagine, in doing movie poster comps. Gonna draw lots of men's suits, jackets, casual clothing. So a lot of the stuff we'll see here is going to be casual clothing. Not going to do too much like, classical fine art drapery that you would put on a figure model, for example. So these are all going to be, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, things that are more geared towards movie poster work, book covers, illustration, that kind of thing. And I think I'm kind of rushing a little bit because, I don't want to take too long here, but some of the drawing is a little off, I feel. Not quite sure where or how, but it's okay for now. So, okay, I got the kind of the framework, the architecture. Now I'm just going to focus in on the clothing or the wrinkles and folds. So I'm not going to obviously render the face or anything, but just want to give myself enough of a head. There you go. That'll work. So what I liked about this, yes, Leyendecker has so many beautiful, beautiful fabric paintings to study, beautiful paintings to study for not just fabric, but for any reason. But this one I liked because this one showed the different folds when the arm is straight and when the arm is bent. Notice on the left, right, we have kind of this anchor point here at the upper left, at the armpit, right, and the shoulder. So it's kind of looking a little bit like, remember, we just saw the diagram on the pipe folds. So you can see that kind of very long pipe, basically, a long cylinder. And then here we have these creases. It's very simple crease with a sort of like a zigzag sort of thing. Not 100% sure how I would describe this particular fold. That's quite unique, but that's interesting because one good reason one of the best reasons really to do master copies is that you can start to see processes and problem solving, meaning, when next time you're drawing a man with a suit jacket and the arm is straight and you're not quite sure what you're seeing in this area at the shirt pocket area or the pinching at the waist. Now you can go back to Leyendecker and see how he did it. So always going to these guys. And in a way too, it's fun because it's less pressure than trying to do it yourself, which we will do as well next. Look at these beautiful zigzags. So we just saw the zigzag, right? Zigzag in and out, little half lock right here. Zigzag, zigzag in and out. So really nice there. And yeah, I feel pretty good about this. I think I'm going to add some shadow next, add some tone to make my work a little bit more clear. It's important, I think, to when you're drawing fabric to draw the tones, because it helps you to see, the form of the fabric, but also you can also see and learn from Leyendecker's lighting or whatever master you're copying, the way they handle value and shadow shapes and things like that. So really important, like just like this little area here where the button is, that's an important kind of almost a focal point area. So, when you come across that in your own work, you can go back to Leyendecker and model the way he handled it. That's always, again, using the masters as a way to develop your own process, right? You can study their work to kind of get an idea of their process, their thinking, the way they handled fabric, the way they handled lighting, the way they handled the cast shadow of the shirt pocket there, the way he handles the lighting on a arm that's straight. It's got some rim lighting on it. Cast shadow on the collar. What does that look like? Cast shadow from on the collar to the hand. What does that look like? Cast shadow on top of the pants. So a lot of these things we can learn from the great masters here. Leyendecker's one of the greats to study, of course. So this part's definitely going to need shadows and tones here. And one last touch of shadow down here. See that little pipe fold right there? Remember we just did pipe folds? It's the suit jacket looking like a cylinder basically. Yes, this little pocket thing, pocket square, men's pocket square in his shirt pocket there, his breast chest pocket. And it's interesting, little bit of pipe folds in the crotch as well as the opposite pant leg. So this is a wonderful, wonderful piece to study for men's clothing and men's suit clothing. And Leyendecker has many of these that you can choose from. So if you're watching at home, you can draw along with me. This is a fun one. This is by the great Loomis. And again, just going to focus on the fabric here. This drawing is from Loomis's Successful Illustration, I believe. It's another wonderful book. And it's amazing how much knowledge that man has. And I love the way he simplified. That's why I chose this reference. Number one, it's a female and has a combination of like a suit jacket or sort of a long sleeve shirt. So it's kind of a something more common in menswear. And it has a long, beautiful dress or skirt, I guess, with the beautiful pipe folds. So it's a great one to study. And it's just so gorgeously simplified in my mind. It is just an absolute must to study. And he has in this book, he has many to choose from. In this book, I just chose this one because it's a nice. It's like really simplified and clean. I thought it would be great to put on video. Great example for you guys, and definitely draw along with me if you're watching at home. It's trying to. I know I'm not supposed to spend too much time on the feet, but the drawing will look weird if the feet are too out of place. So gotta spend a little bit of time there. And one more long, beautiful pipe fold here. Okay. Um, and some beautiful folds happening here. A couple of these zigzag type of folds. A little bit of a half lock there, and again more zigzags. Here is the almost and for sure zigzag at the wrist where the fabric gathers. It's almost got this spiral fold feeling on the forearm there. Okay, so I'm going to just try to copy Loomis's shading here as best as I can. And obviously I'm not going to do a full rendering like he did or take it to any sort of finish. Just focusing on the fabric here. Some beautiful folds happening here, and the tone just gives me a little bit more dimension. Obviously, that's good for us. Helps us to see our work. versus just a line drawing. And this beautiful skirt is just lovely how he drew that. It's excellent. And there it is. Okay, our next exercise is to do the upper body clothing from reference from photography. And we're going to look at shirts, men's jackets or women's jackets, suit jacket, casual jacket, winter jackets, thick jackets, dress shirts, even ordinary plain t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts are a big part of what I have to draw. Casual clothes is like 90% of the clothing that I draw. So for the poster work, so it's definitely important to have that down. So the men's long sleeve shirt is something that's just iconic casual wear or iconic clothing that you know actors and characters in movies wear the same clothing that you and I do, so we got to get good at that. So just like the copy I did, what I'm going to do first is kind of look at the shapes. Well, first I'm going to do a figure drawing, right? So this part is tough. I think if you can draw figures well, you can do good, and you've never drawn fabric. I think you could do a really good job of drawing fabric. You can fake it till you make it almost. It kind of like what I did, like I mentioned earlier. But if let's say you're really good at clothing and let's say you're a textile person and you're an expert on various clothing, drapery, materials, wrinkles, folds, right? But you can't draw figures. I think you're going to have a big challenge in my mind. So, um, what I'm trying to say is that the knowledge of the figure definitely is the foundation here, and that's what I'm relying on right now. I know I know a little bit about why these wrinkles are happening, but I know much more about what's going on underneath the clothing. Why there's a bunch of fabric on this side and some wrinkles on the armpit. So that's really helpful. The head feels small. This person looks like Toby Maguire, the actor. I'm not sure if it is. It might be, huh? Comment below if you know who Toby Maguire is, if you think that's him. I think it is him, actually. Played Spider-Man a few years ago. And this one just has some pretty complex folds. So, part of me is like, oh boy, what do I do? But the other part of me is like, well, I've seen Leyendecker do it. We just looked at um, uh, beautiful simplification of fabric by the great Loomis. So the more that you copy and understand the great masters, how they simplified, the more confidence you'll have going into something pretty complex like this. There's a lot of interesting folds. Even me, I'm like, oh boy, what's going on here? A lot of interesting stuff going on, a lot of complexity, a lot of detail, interesting light and shadow shapes. So I'm just trying to do my best here to translate what I see, but also to consciously simplify and just get across the type of fold that I want, the type of material that I want to convey. In this case, cotton shirt, right? I know that you're going to get a lot of zigzags like what we have on the right side. A couple of these kind of spiral folds happening in the upper arm here, a little interlock happening here in the armpit as well. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Let me add some tone now. Just so we can see some dimension to these folds here. I especially want to address the arm. That right arm is his left, but our right. Looks it's going to be fun and challenging to draw, but that's okay. I'm with that. I'm with that. Man, this one is a little complex. And if you're following along at home, how are you doing on this? Are you kind of freaking out, or are you like, oh, this is too hard, Chris? Did you tap out on me? This is tough, actually. Now that I look at it, I'm like, oh, maybe I should have picked the easier one. Um, but that's okay. There's if you go on my Pinterest page, you can just Google or go into Pinterest and type my name, Chris Legaspi. I have a whole folder or Pinterest board on fabric, and there's lots of examples there. Or you can just do a Google search for the famous artist course, and lots of beautiful fabric reference will come up that you can use. Okay, so let's look at this arm now. This is a spiral fold, little half lock there, a long half lock here in the armpit, kind of going into a little bit of a spiral fold, and then it becomes a zigzag as it moves down the arm. A lot of material is gathering. That's really what wrinkles are. It's excess material, right? Excess material kind of gathering, pinching together, overlapping each other. And that's why that famous artist course is so helpful, because it gives you like a nice framework to identify the various shapes that fabric takes when it when it when they do wrinkle and fold within each other. All right. Obviously, it's not a perfect study, right? Could definitely would like to take it further, but I'm going to move forward now just for the sake of time. Okay, our final exercise is to do the full figure. We're going to do various poses. I would also do various angles, do walking pose, running pose, casual pose, a dynamic action pose maybe, but more importantly, do various genders, so male, female, male clothing, shirts, jackets, female clothing, dresses, if you can have them, or evening gowns and summer dresses and things like that. Skirts are really great to practice. And also t-shirt or jeans is what we're going to do here. Just ordinary t-shirt and jeans, something I see a lot, or I have to do a lot of. And this is a side view, but um, I would definitely encourage uh, you guys to, if you're watching at home, if you're one of my students, definitely um, do as many angles and poses as possible. This one had a nice, what I liked about this one, it's a female casual clothing, t-shirt and jeans. Like I mentioned, I do that quite a bit. And it has that nice, um, she's wearing a shirt around her waist there. It has an interesting effect. So I wanted to see if I could capture that, study that. I was when I was doing research for this video, I was looking at some line deckers, and he has one where he's drawing. He did a study of fabric, like a T-shirt or a jacket being draped over an arm. So when I saw this image, it kind of reminded me of that. So again, it was like, there's another example of how we can learn from the greats, copy and study the greats like Leyendecker and Rockwell and Loomis, and then bring that into our own work when we need. I'm so afraid of making the leg too short. That's probably right though, because I always make the leg too long. Okay, and the back leg. Yeah, this is a little tricky because it's also a figure drawing. And I have to do, of all the majority of the poses that I do are in the poster work are casual standing poses, but I do get uh, the walking or either walking or action pose quite a bit. This is somewhere in between. It's like a little bit of a jogging scene, not quite running, not walking either, somewhere in between, so kind of jogging. So this is a useful one. And if you're watching at home and you want, to improve your figure drawing, I have a full 8-week program now on figure drawing, my figure drawing masterclass. That's available both with self-study and with instruction. And you can definitely check that out on my website or through my email newsletter. If you subscribe to my email Insiders Club, you can get discount codes as well, so you can save a little bit on my premium programs. And I just finished a 6-week live movie poster program. It's my newest program, and that's available now as well. So if you want to, if you're serious about getting into movie posters or book covers and things like that, that might be a great course for you. It's a program actually, 6 weeks long, 6 chapters, 6 modules. Okay, so again, I'm just trying to get my shapes down before I focus on the fabric. So I'm looking at her back of her leg, and there's a clear like little half lock, or her leg is not fully bent, but there's a lot of that spiral fold. Remember the spiral folds that wrap around cylinders? So these are spiral folds here. A little bit of a zigzag at the boot. You see that right at the where the jeans meet the boot right here. It's really nice. And then the back of the leg can't really see, but they're going to be these type of folds, these little half lock folds there, and a little bit of the pipe fold. And this really cool shirt on her waist, moving in space, so cool. I had to try to get that in my drawing there. This is tough. I know if you're following along with me, you probably did good with the pant legs and the t-shirt there. But now you're trying to do the the shirt, and you're probably like, oh boy, it gets a little too abstract. So I would definitely go back to the diagram stage there, the diagram exercise. Okay, let's get some tone now. Okay, I'm gonna just lightly glaze a wash of dark tone, or a light tone in this case, just to separate the fabric from the skin. I should get the boots in there too, why not? Okay, so let's start with the t-shirt here. So just a little interesting cast shadow there. The t-shirt sleeve or sling, casting a shadow on her chest there. There's some, I guess these would be mini spiral folds right at the armpit there. A little bit confusing here. I'm kind of lost as well. But if that's the case, I'm just going to simplify, simplify, simplify. Just like what Loomis did, as I'm looking at her left abdomen there, where all those beautiful wrinkles are. I'm like, okay, what is happening there? You know what? I can't possibly interpret all of that, especially I have limited time now. I don't want to spend an hour here. So I'm just going to kind of think about how Leyendecker would do it and what best describes the form first, which is a cylinder, right? The torso is a cylinder. So spiral folds would be great, but there's also a bend, a slight bend in her waist there. So then that would make a half lock or zigzag in this case. And if you're not sure if it's a half lock, if it's a zigzag, it doesn't really matter. But those, what's helpful about that book and those terms is that it gives you a point of reference so that you can see like, oh, okay, there is a pattern to wrinkles. They all kind of take this similar shape. So that's what that famous artist course will teach you, to recognize those shapes. So definitely go back to first exercise, the warm-up exercise. Okay, this is, I believe that's a shirt collar. Yes, another thing too, why it's important to study fabric and copy diagrams, copy the masters. So it gives you a great kind of a shorthand or a cheat code in a way, right? Like this area here and this area here where I'm at now is super complex, right? But you know, the more you study how Leyendecker would problem solve this, how Sargent would problem solve this, how Loomis or Bert Hogarth would problem solve this, then you could see, okay, they probably had, just like this situation, they probably had complex folds to draw for their illustrations and things. So, how did they solve it? What are some what are some things they simplified? What are some things they edited out? And that's a lot of really what I'm doing here is doing a lot of editing. Even now, I'm getting really lost in this thing. I really shouldn't, but that's okay. I hope this helps you to see, my process of drawing fabric. Like I said, I'm not expert. To me, fabric is just kind of loose skin on human form, really. And so a lot of what I do is I fall back on my figure drawing. Like I said, figure drawing will take you really far, even if you can't draw fabric or know nothing about it. Okay, so that's that shirt there, her jean waist. I'm gonna just ignore that for now. I'm gonna go to these folds in the back of her knee. And even now, like I'm partially looking, but I'm also partially inventing because I know exactly what types of folds will be here. These will be half lock folds and also the spiral folds like I already saw. So fortunately, these are a little bit easier, right? So if you're following along at home, you're probably like, oh, thank God, this part is way easier than than what we were doing before. Yep, I would agree. And even the boots have an interesting little half lock here. You guys see that? It's a different material, so the shape is quite unique. It's a much different shape, a slightly different shape, but similar to the half lock in the cotton in the shirt. This is a suede or some kind of leather, right? Shoe leather. So that's nice. And then the back leg here. Back leg's a little bit obscure, a little bit hidden. See if we can bring that out to the front. And yeah, I feel pretty good about that. I don't want to spend too much time on these back leg ones because I want it to kind of recede into shadow. I don't want them to pop out too much. But I feel pretty good about this front leg. The fabric reads quite well. It's not perfect, but for a study, you know, I think it reads well. I'm happy with the shirt, and you know, even though it's not perfect, I feel pretty good about the way I was able to simplify a lot of the complexity happening right here in this area, right here. Whew, that was a bit hairy.